we move to Kenyans for Kenya. And today, lots going on. A fundraising organized by Jinadin, ladies raising money, coming together. And that raised, at the point when I left, I understand about 1.4 million, hoping to raise much more than that. The figure right now, over 650 million shillings raised. The new target, of course, 1 billion shillings. You know how to send the money through M-Pesa, other mobile lines as well, and of course on KCB. Now in studio right now, we're happy to have Houghton Irungu. He's the Pan-African Director of Oxfam. And there's something amazing happening in Africa. A spark almost has been lit, and he's here to tell us about it. Houghton, thank you for making the time to be with us in studio. So it started off in Kenya. We weren't sure how much money we could raise. Initial target was 140 million. They said, no, let's go for 500 million. We broke that target. We've broken with 650 heading for 1 billion. And the rest of Africa is starting to mobilize. And it's amazing to hear people sending their own money. Tell us what's going on.
Well, first of all, it's just to say that it is stunning, the amount of generosity that Kenyans have brought forward in these last couple of weeks or so. And that many of them should be aware that actually it's beginning to stir the hearts of people across the continent. Over the last couple of weeks, Vodacom in South Africa has actually launched an appeal. And that has actually outstripped at the moment the South African government's contributions. And that's quite amazing. Those are ordinary citizens, you know, men, women, I'm sure there are children there as well, boys and girls who are doing this.
Through the mobile phone.
Absolutely.
Right,
So I think there is a moment really that we should be proud of in terms of Africa. This is, you know, its most severe drought, I think, in about 60 years. We've had 4 famines in the last 10 years. But this is probably the biggest of the biggest, I think. And the worst about it is it's going to get bigger.
This spirit that it's evoked, now it's going to get bigger, and you'll tell us a bit about that and what we can continue to do. But the realization is it's not just a short-term thing. The next 6 months, we definitely will need to be feeding people. There need to be long-term solutions. But let's talk a bit about this spirit that is emerging from this continent, that was seen as really, let's use the frank terms, hopeless. You need to send aid to Africans. But now Africans are raising money for themselves. What do you think that?
Well, I think for a lot of analysts globally, they must be a bit shocked because the often, you know, stereotype of Africa is that we are the basket case of the world, that we are unable to feed ourselves, but we are unable also to be charitable and to be supportive of each other. And what we've seen in the last 3 weeks, you know, 4 weeks, it's inadequate, but it is definitely a wonderful start in terms of taking responsibility. In the adage that African governments usually speak about African solutions to African problems. And it's not just governments that need to do this, it's also citizens.
And they are. And
they are doing that.
Well done to everybody who's sent money and continues to send. Finally, let's just talk about, you've said it's not going to get any easier. It's certainly going to be a tough situation for the next few months. What needs to be done?
Well, first of all, I think we need to say that, you know, droughts may be inevitable, but famine is not. This was a completely preventable catastrophe. It is a disaster that could have been prevented. So the first thing we need to see is governments actually beginning to learn the lesson from this and ensuring that we have adequate investment in agriculture, but more importantly, perhaps thinking very seriously about disaster risk reduction. You know, how is it that we can create humanitarian disaster funds that are at the national level able to kick in when this happens?
Apparently we have them.
We do, but they're inadequate. Both, I mean, all the 2 countries, Ethiopia and Kenya, have disaster funds. But the reality is that they don't have enough resources in them. And one of the things that may be interesting to look at is how can citizens also contribute to these funds? How can the private sector contribute to these funds as well? Over the next 10 days, there's going to be an interesting set of dynamics. On the 25th of August, the African Union Commission has announced a huge international pledging conference that will happen either in Addis Ababa or in Nairobi. And over the next 10 days, they've begun to look at how can they create a Pan-African moment of solidarity. And that moment starts tomorrow morning. August the 15th is the day of Pan-African solidarity with the people of the Horn. So what we would like to see is you know, Kenyans and Africans also dipping into their pockets, giving for the Horn, particularly Ethiopia and Somalia, of which, you know, have many more people who are vulnerable to this, you know, to this disaster than we have on our own soil.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We're going to keep up with that. We know there's a press conference and much more that will be happening over the next few weeks. Thank you, Houghton, for coming in. So again, thank you so much. If you've done your part, you've sent the money. If you can still do so, continue to do so. This is a long-term issue. Certainly the drought for the next few months is continuing. And then we need to look for the longer-term solutions as well. So you know how to send the money by now, and we hope you continue to do so. We've still got so much more coming up on Sunday Live, including the special interviews, of course, with our analysts.